He had everything: wealth, success, a mansion in Lagos. But love? He wanted no part of it. So his father did the unthinkable. He dressed like a poor beggar and waited by the roadside, hoping to find the one woman whose heart was still pure. When she came, she gave without asking. What she didn't know was, she wasn't just feeding a stranger. She was walking straight into a love story that would change all their lives. This emotional African tale will warm your heart, make you cry, and remind you that love still lives in the simplest acts. Stay with me. You won't believe how it ends. Hi, family. Before we jump in, drop your country in the comments and hit that subscribe button for more powerful stories like this. Chief Duro was a proud father. His only son, Timmy, was a handsome 35-year-old man with everything a parent could dream of. He owned a successful tech company in Lagos, drove the latest car models, lived in a luxurious apartment in Banana Island, and was respected everywhere he went. But there was one thing missing: love. Timmy refused to marry. Every time his father brought up the topic, he waved it off. "I don't have time, Papa. Women are distractions," he would say with a smirk. It broke Chief Duro's heart. He had grown up in a time when family came first, when love was a partnership, not a burden. Timmy's mother had passed away when he was a teenager, and the old man had poured every dream into his son. Now, at 67, he wanted to see his family grow, to hold a grandchild, to hear the laughter of a daughter-in-law in his home. The neighbors whispered, "How can a man with so much not have someone to share it with?" The aunties at church threw hints, offering their nieces, daughters, even goddaughters. But Timmy always said no. One afternoon, Chief Duro sat by the window, staring at the quiet driveway. "If I don't do something now," he whispered to himself, "my son will grow old and bitter, alone in his wealth." Then an idea hit him. A wild, emotional idea. What if I find the woman first? What if I test her heart? He stood up slowly, walked to his closet, and pulled out an old, faded kaftan, the kind beggars wore in the market. He took off his gold watch, removed his wedding band, and stuffed some worn-out sandals into a nylon bag. His heart pounded, but his mind was clear. The next morning, he left his mansion early and went straight to the local market road. He sat under the shade of a mango tree with a small cup in front of him, pretending to be a poor, tired old beggar. He didn't want pity. He wanted to watch, to see who still had a kind heart in a world that chased money. Would someone stop for him? Would a woman show compassion with no idea of his true identity? He didn't know, but he was ready to wait and find love for his son. The sun beat down on the crowded market road. Traders shouted over one another, calling out prices. Cars honked nonstop, and Okadas zipped past. Among the chaos, a young woman walked with careful steps, holding a large blue bag on her shoulder and a small cooler in her hand. Her name was Zainab. She was 28, slim, chocolate-skinned, with a soft, natural afro tied with a red scarf. She sold homemade lunch packs to office workers nearby: jollof rice, beans, fried plantains. Her laugh was warm, her heart even warmer. But her life? It wasn't easy. She lived with her younger brother and paid their rent through her food sales. Every morning, she cooked from 4 a.m. and delivered meals before noon. That afternoon, as she crossed the market, her eyes landed on an old man sitting by the mango tree. His kaftan was dusty. His eyes looked tired. A small plastic cup sat in front of him with only a few coins inside. Most people passed him like he didn't exist. Some looked away. Others made jokes. But Zainab paused. She dug into her cooler and pulled out a steaming hot lunch pack: fried rice and peppered chicken. She walked over quietly, squatted next to him, and smiled. "Good afternoon, Baba. You look hungry. Please eat." Chief Duro was speechless. He looked at the food, then at her. No one had said a kind word to him since he sat there. He tried to protest, but she opened the pack and placed it gently in his hands. "You don't have to talk," she said. "Just eat. God bless you." As she turned to leave, Chief Duro called softly, "What's your name?" She looked back and smiled. "Zainab." He watched her walk away, her blue bag swinging by her side. That night, as Chief Duro returned home secretly, he couldn't stop thinking about her. She hadn't given him money. She had given him care. Not out of pity, but love. And something inside him whispered, "She's the one." But now came the hard part. How would he bring her into his son's life without revealing who he really was? Chief Duro sat alone in his study, the windows open, letting in the soft hum of Lagos traffic. He hadn't felt this kind of excitement in years. His heart was alive again because of a girl with a blue bag. Zainab's kindness wasn't just a small act. It was rare, honest, the kind of love that wasn't loud, but powerful. He held his walking stick and paced the room, thinking deeply. How do I bring her close to Timmy without making it obvious? He must meet her, but it must feel natural. He smiled slowly. If she works in food, maybe she can cater for his company. If they meet through work, it won't look suspicious. He made a few silent phone calls, not as Chief Duro, but as an anonymous man recommending a caterer. He had seen Zainab's number printed on the side of her lunch cooler. Within 2 days, Zainab received a strange call. Hello? Good morning, this is Timmy Technologies. We're hosting a small team event on Friday, and someone recommended your food. Are you available? Zainab blinked. She had never worked with big companies before. Yes, I'm available, sir. Good. Please come for a tasting tomorrow by 11 a.m. She wrote the address down and screamed with joy after the call ended. God, thank you. Her brother ran out of the room. What happened? I just got a company deal. Zainab didn't know it yet, but she was walking into something much deeper than just business. Timmy walked into the meeting room of his tech office like he always did, confident, focused, and not expecting to be distracted. He wore a fitted white shirt, navy blue pants, and a silver wristwatch. Everything about him said, I'm busy, I don't play games. But when he opened the door, he froze. Standing near the table, arranging food trays, was Zainab. Her hair was neatly tied back, and her eyes lit up when she saw him, not from recognition, but respect. Good morning, sir, she greeted with a small bow. Timmy nodded stiffly. Morning. The aroma of her food hit the room immediately. Jollof rice, ifo riro, grilled turkey, plantain chips, puff puff. His staff members began murmuring with excitement. Everyone wanted to eat, but Timmy just stared at her. There was something about her presence. Simple, calm, but full of life. As the team tasted the food, Timmy found himself watching Zainab. More than the dishes. She moved quietly, refilling trays, laughing with his staff, wiping the table edges neatly. She wasn't just serving food. She was giving joy. When the tasting ended, Timmy cleared his throat. We'll use you for the event. Zainab smiled brightly. Thank you so much, sir. I'll not disappoint. As she packed her things, Timmy surprised himself. How long have you been doing this? She paused. About 3 years now. I started after my parents passed. I take care of my younger brother. Timmy didn't say anything, but her words stayed with him. That night, as he laid in bed, for the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about his business or his goals, he was thinking about her. The office party was held 2 days later. It wasn't a grand event, but it felt special because of Zainab. The moment she arrived, everything seemed brighter. She wore a clean white blouse tucked into a soft blue skirt. Her apron was spotless, her hands moved with confidence, and her smile could calm storms. Timmy stayed in the background at first, watching. It was strange. He had never paid attention to anyone serving food before. But with Zainab, it was different. She served the food like it was personal. She asked each person how much spice they wanted. She laughed with the shy interns. She even helped one of the workers carry his plate when he spilled soup. Timmy couldn't help it. He walked up to her during a quiet moment. You handled everything well. Thank you, sir, she said with a proud smile. Do you always serve the food yourself? Yes, I believe in it. If someone eats my food, they should feel my heart in it. Timmy raised an eyebrow. That was new. You sound like a poet. She laughed shyly. I'm just a cook, sir. But Timmy shook his head. No, you're more than that. The words surprised even him. Later that evening, Chief Duro sat in his living room pretending to read the newspaper, but really waiting for his son to return. Timmy walked in quietly, hung his suit, and sat across from his father. How was your day? Chief Duro asked casually. Timmy shrugged. We had that office party. Caterer came in. Food was good. Chief Duro hid his smile. Just good. Timmy stared at the wall. She was interesting. Chief Duro didn't say a word. But inside, he whispered yes. She's the one, my son. The next week passed with Timmy finding excuses to call Zainab. Hello, we want some lunch packs for an in-house meeting. Zainab, do you do home deliveries? Can you recommend a good drink to pair with jollof rice? Each call was short, professional, but there was always a slight pause after she answered, as if both of them were listening for something more between the words. One day, Timmy sent a message. Would you like to join me for lunch this Sunday? Not to work, just to talk. Zainab blinked at her phone. Her heart skipped. She wasn't used to this. Men didn't usually approach her, especially not men like him. She thought about it all night before replying. Okay, I'll come. She told her younger brother, Musa, who nearly spilled his cereal. That tech guy? Are you serious? Zainab smiled and nodded. But don't start dreaming. It's just lunch. Sunday came. Timmy wore a simple gray shirt, black jeans, and sneakers. He picked a quiet garden restaurant, not flashy, but peaceful. When Zainab arrived in a yellow dress with tiny sunflower prints, he stood up quickly, heart racing more than it should. You look very nice, he said. Thank you, sir. He laughed. Please, just call me Timmy. Over grilled chicken and sweet plantains, they talked. About life, about their parents, about struggles and dreams. Zainab told him how she once wanted to be a nurse, but couldn't afford school fees. He told her about the pressure of running a company alone. When the meal ended, there was a long silence. Then Timmy said, Zainab, I don't usually do this, but I want to see you again. Not as a caterer, just as you. Zainab looked into his eyes, unsure of what to say, but her heart was already saying yes. Zainab had never felt this way before. After the lunch with Timmy, she walked home in slow motion, every step floating on air. She replayed his words in her head again and again. I want to see you again just as you. That night, she couldn't sleep. She turned from side to side, her mind racing. Was this real? Was a rich, successful man truly interested in her? Not for her food, but for her. Meanwhile, across town, Timmy lay in his bed staring at the ceiling. He smiled to himself. Zainab wasn't like anyone he had ever met. She didn't talk about money, or fame, or plans. She just talked like home. For the first time in his adult life, he found himself wanting to talk to someone, to share his thoughts, to listen. The next day, he sent her a message. I haven't stopped smiling since yesterday. Can I see you again soon? Zainab read it with shaking fingers. Her brother teased her all morning, but she didn't mind. Something inside her was glowing. They started meeting more often, sometimes at the small cafe near her house, other times at quiet parks where the wind rustled the trees and gave them peace to talk. They laughed a lot. They told stories from their childhood. And each time they met, the connection grew. Timmy didn't tell his father everything, but Chief Duro knew. He saw the way his son's smile lasted longer, the way his footsteps got lighter. And when Timmy finally said, There's this girl I'm seeing. I think you'll like her, the old man almost wept with joy. Take your time, Chief Duro said gently. But listen to your heart. Timmy nodded. For once, Papa, I think I'm doing just that. One rainy afternoon, Timmy drove to Zainab's neighborhood to surprise her. He brought a box of pastries from her favorite bakery. But when he arrived, he found her sitting outside under the small zinc roof, her younger brother coughing beside her. Is he okay? Timmy asked, jumping out of his car. Zainab looked up, a little embarrassed. He's been having this cough. I wanted to take him to the clinic, but I've been a bit behind on sales. Timmy didn't hesitate. Get in the car. Let's go. But no argument, Zainab. He needs care. That's more important than anything else right now. They drove straight to a private hospital nearby. Timmy paid for the consultation and stayed with them the entire time. After the doctor gave Musa some medication, Timmy dropped them back home with groceries and some warm food he bought along the way. Zainab was quiet the whole time. When they got to her house, she turned to him slowly. Why are you doing all this? For me? Timmy smiled gently. Because you did it for me first. She frowned. What do you mean? He leaned against the car door. You gave food to a hungry old man in the street, without knowing who he was. That showed me the kind of heart you have. And I fell for that heart, Zainab. Zainab's eyes filled with tears. You saw that? I see you. She covered her mouth, overwhelmed by emotion. Timmy, He stepped closer, but didn't touch her. You don't have to say anything yet. I just want you to know, I'm serious about you. And I'm not going anywhere. That night, Zainab cried happy tears on her pillow, and across town, Chief Duro sat in his armchair, smiling at the rain. He knew love was growing. And he had no regrets about pretending to be poor, because from that little act, a beautiful love story was unfolding. Chief Duro had never been a man to show too much emotion, but lately, everything made him smile. The morning tea tasted sweeter. The birds outside sounded like music. Even the Lagos traffic didn't bother him like it used to. Timmy had become a different man. More patient, more gentle, more present. Sometimes, the old man would sit by his bedroom window and whisper, "Thank you, God," even though he promised himself he wouldn't bring spirituality into this mission. This wasn't a miracle. It was human kindness that started it all. Timmy had not yet told Zainab about his father. Not really. He only mentioned that his father was retired and staying quiet. But Chief Duro had been following from afar. He, still dressed as the old beggar once a week, and sat quietly at his usual mango tree, just to see if Zainab would stop again. She always did. She never recognized him. Not even once. But every single time she passed, she gave something: fruit, bottled water, a piece of meat pie, or just a smile. And that smile told him everything he needed to know: that he was proud. So proud that he began to imagine what it would be like to walk her down the aisle himself. Not as a beggar, not even as just Timmy's father, but as family. Timmy had never been in a relationship this serious. And for the first time, he was scared, not of commitment, but of losing something that actually made him feel alive. So he did something bold. He called Zainab one afternoon and said, "I want you to meet someone." "Who?" she asked, curious. "My father." Zainab froze. "Your father?" "Yes. He's very important to me, and I want him to see who's important to me too." Zainab smiled slowly, her cheeks warming. "Okay, I'd be honored." The day came quickly. Timmy came to pick her up. She wore a soft pink gown and simple gold earrings. She looked elegant and calm, even though her heart was beating fast. Chief Duro had planned the lunch carefully. He didn't want to meet her as the old beggar, and he didn't want to make her feel small either. So he wore his simplest agbada with leather sandals and prepared a meal himself: pepper soup, pounded yam, and ogbono. When Zainab walked into the house, she paused at the doorway. "This house is beautiful," she whispered. Timmy nodded. "Come. He's waiting in the garden." Zainab followed him outside. When she saw the man sitting there, calm, smiling, familiar in a strange way, she gasped slightly. The man stood. His voice was warm. "Zainab." She blinked. "That voice, those eyes, I know you," she whispered. Chief Duro laughed softly. "Yes. Mango tree. Fried rice. Your blue bag." Zainab's knees nearly gave way. You were the beggar?" "I was the watcher," he corrected gently. "I needed to see if your heart was real before I gave it to my son." Tears filled Zainab's eyes. Chief Duro stepped closer and held her hand. "And now, I want you to be my daughter." She cried into his shoulder, overwhelmed by emotion. Timmy watched from behind, his eyes wet, his heart full. That evening, they sat around the garden table, eating, laughing, sharing, and the sun set gently over a family that was no longer broken, but being built with love, respect, and the softest kind of truth. After the garden lunch, something shifted between Timmy and Zainab. The walls were gone. No more hesitation. No more formality. There was only openness and warmth. Zainab now came to the house often, sometimes to cook with Chief Duro, sometimes just to sit and talk with him under the mango tree. In the backyard, he treated her like his own child, teaching her little things like how to fold napkins for guests or how to tell the difference between old and young yams. Timmy loved watching them bond. It reminded him of his mother, how she used to laugh in the kitchen, how she made love feel like home. One evening, after dinner, Timmy and Zainab walked through the quiet estate. The moonlight fell gently on the paved road, and her hand rested comfortably in his. "I've never felt this safe before," Zainab said softly. Timmy stopped walking and looked at her. "Zainab, yes. I want to ask you something important." She turned, heart racing. "But not yet," he smiled. "Not tonight. I want it to be perfect." Zainab laughed, relieved and nervous. "Then stop building suspense like you're in a movie." He squeezed her hand. "You're the movie. I just don't want the ending to come too soon." They kept walking, in no rush at all, just soaking in the peace of a love that was quietly becoming forever. A week later, Chief Duro asked Timmy to come sit with him by the mango tree. "My son," he said, handing him a small wooden box. This ring belonged to your mother's father. He gave it to me when I asked for her hand. I've kept it safe all these years. Timmy opened the box. Inside was a simple gold ring with a small heart-shaped stone. Not flashy, just timeless. Asterisk, it's beautiful, Timmy whispered. Give it to her when your heart tells you it's time, Chief Duro said. And make sure you don't just propose with your mouth, propose with your life. That night, Timmy planned something different. He invited Zainab to a small beachside dinner outside the city. No fancy hotels, just a quiet lantern-lit table near the waves, with soft music playing from a distance. Zainab arrived in a flowing cream gown. Her hair was pinned back, her skin glowing under the soft lights. When she saw the beach setup, she gasped. "You did all this?" she whispered. "I had help," Timmy grinned. "My father made sure I didn't serve cold suya." They ate, they laughed, they danced barefoot on the sand. Then, as the lanterns flickered in the wind, Timmy dropped to one knee. Zainab froze. "From the first time you fed a tired old man without asking anything in return, I knew you were different. You've changed me. You've changed my father. You've changed this house." He opened the small box. "Zainab, will you marry me?" She covered her mouth with both hands, tears already streaming down her cheeks. "Yes. Yes, Timmy. 1,000 times yes." Cheers came from behind the bushes. Chief Duro, Musa, and a few close friends who had been hiding the whole time. Fireworks lit the sky above the waves, and in that moment, there was no past, no pain, no pretending. Just two hearts and the people who believed in them, saying yes to love. The news of Timmy and Zainab's engagement spread quickly, especially in their two different worlds as Zainab's neighbors celebrated like it was a national event. Aunties came by with pots of soup, uncles offered to rent chairs, and even her vegetable seller promised free ugu leaves for her wedding day. Timmy's office. Whispers flew from cubicle to cubicle. The tech world's golden bachelor was finally off the market, and not to some rich influencer, but to a humble food vendor from the market. It was the kind of love story people didn't see coming, and yet everyone rooted for it. Meanwhile, the house became a warm chaos of wedding planning. Chief Duro was in his element, browsing color charts, calling tailors, arguing over guest lists. "The geli must be coral orange," he said one morning, slamming a catalog closed. "Not peach. Coral." Zainab laughed so hard she nearly fell off the couch. "Papa, it's your wedding now. And my only son is marrying the best girl in Lagos. Let me enjoy it." Timmy and Zainab worked together on the invitations, choosing simple white cards with golden letters. "No photos," Zainab insisted. "Let people come and see us live." Musa got fitted for his first ever proper suit. He looked at himself in the mirror and whispered, "I look like money." In all the excitement, Zainab had moments of quiet reflection. She would sit alone at night and hold the ring gently, wondering how this all happened so fast, yet so naturally. She wasn't marrying a rich man. She was marrying her friend, her peace, her heart. And in a world that moved so fast, she was grateful for the love that found her when she wasn't even looking. 3 weeks before the wedding, Timmy and Zainab's two families met officially for the traditional introduction ceremony. It was held in Zainab's small compound. Nothing fancy, just bright fabrics, big smiles, and the aroma of egusi and jollof rice floating in the air. Timmy arrived in a burgundy agbada, with a confident but respectful look on his face. Chief Duro walked beside him proudly, holding cola nuts and a bottle of palm wine, gifts of respect for the bride's family. Zainab wore a golden lace wrapper, her face glowing under light makeup. When she walked out to greet the elders, the entire compound went quiet. Chief Duro whispered to Timmy, "You see this girl? Your mother would have loved her." The ceremony began. Elders spoke. Gifts were exchanged. Blessings were given. And when Timmy took the microphone to speak, he said just one thing. "I didn't find Zainab. She found me, and my heart has been full ever since." There were tears. There was dancing. There was even a drum troupe that showed up uninvited but somehow made the day better. Later that evening, as the crowd thinned, Zainab sat with Timmy under the moonlight in front of her family house. "Do you ever think about how different we are?" she asked. Timmy nodded. "All the time. And you're not scared?" He took her hand. "No. You didn't love me because of my house or my job. And I didn't love you because of your cooking or your story. We loved each other because we saw each other." She smiled, eyes shining. Timmy leaned closer and whispered, "Different worlds or not, I'm not letting you go." The wedding was 2 weeks away, and everything was in motion. The halls were booked. The fabric colors were agreed upon, coral orange and ivory white. The guest list was almost finalized. But for Zainab, one thing remained: her dress. Chief Duro insisted on taking her shopping himself. "I want to be the one," he said, smiling proudly. "You gave me the daughter I never had. Let me give you the dress you deserve." They drove together to a boutique in Lekki. It was modern, elegant, with soft jazz playing in the background and delicate gowns hanging like clouds. Zainab had never stepped into such a place. She was nervous at first, unsure if she even belonged, but Chief Duro walked beside her like she was royalty. She tried on dress after dress. Some too heavy, some too bright, some too plain. Then, she walked out in a simple off-shoulder gown with delicate lace running down the sleeves, soft pearls on the waistline, and a flowing train that danced behind her like wind. The moment she stepped in front of the mirror, she stopped breathing. Chief Duro stood up slowly. "My daughter," he whispered, his voice catching. "You look like joy." Zainab turned to him, eyes filled with tears. "Do I really deserve this much happiness?" "Papa," he held her gently. "You deserve more than this. You gave love when you had nothing to gain. That is the greatest kind of love." She nodded slowly. As she looked back into the mirror, she didn't just see a bride. She saw the journey. She saw her mother's face. She saw the little girl who once sold food in traffic, and she whispered to her reflection, "I'm ready." The night before the wedding, Timmy couldn't sleep. He sat on the balcony of his home, wearing a plain white t-shirt and track pants, staring at the moon like it held answers. The city was quiet. Too quiet for a man whose life was about to change forever. Chief Duro joined him without a word. He carried 2 mugs of hot cocoa. "You're nervous," he said plainly. Timmy laughed lightly. "You think?" Chief Duro sipped. Slowly. "I was terrified the night before I married your mother. She wore yellow that day. Said it brought sunshine." Timmy smiled. "Do you think I'm making the right choice?" His father turned to him. "Let me ask you one thing. Does she make you want to be a better man?" Timmy nodded immediately. "Every single day." "Then she's the right one." They sat in silence for a long while, watching the stars. Meanwhile, across town, Zainab braided her brother Moose's hair, both of them sitting on the mat outside their small apartment. "I still remember when we had nothing," he said softly. "No rent, no light, no food except what you cooked." Zainab rested her hands on his shoulder. "And now look at us. You're marrying a tech giant, sis," he laughed. "Are you sure this isn't a Nollywood film?" Zainab shook her head. "No, Musa. This is real. And tomorrow, everything changes." They sat there, holding on to the silence. Grateful, hopeful, and as the clock struck midnight, Zainab whispered into the night, "Tomorrow, I become someone's wife." The sun rose gently over Lagos, casting a golden hue on the city like a blessing. Birds chirped with excitement, and the air felt different, like it knew something special was happening. Zainab woke up to the soft sounds of her friends singing in her room, gently helping her into her coral orange robe. Her heart thudded fast, but steady. Everything was real now. The gown was hanging beside her. The makeup artist was setting up. The gold heels lay untouched by the mirror. Zainab, her best friend whispered, adjusting her scarf. "You're glowing." Zainab blinked back tears. "I'm scared." Her friend smiled. "That's what love does. It softens you." Meanwhile, across the city, Timmy stood in front of his full-length mirror. His agbada was snow white with coral embroidery. His cap sat perfectly on his head. His best man fixed his collar with shaking hands. "I've never seen you nervous." The best man laughed. Timmy took a deep breath. "Because this is the first time something actually matters more than work or success. This is my forever." At the venue. A beautiful open-air garden with orange flowers lining the aisles and white chairs set up in neat rows. Chief Duro walked around like a proud king. Every guest was greeted with warmth, every detail triple-checked. When the ceremony started, traditional drums filled the air. The guests stood as Zainab stepped into view, her gown catching the sunlight, her face hidden beneath a soft veil. Timmy's breath caught in his throat. She walked slowly, every step a dream, until she reached him. and when he lifted the veil and saw her eyes, those same eyes that had once smiled at an old beggar under a mango tree, he almost cried. "You're here," he whispered. "I've always been," she replied. They exchanged vows. Simple, raw, emotional. "I promise to protect your joy," Timmy said. "And I promise to hold your heart like it's my own," Zainab replied. The crowd cheered. Chief Duro clapped the loudest. Two hearts became one under the orange sun of a city that never sleeps. The reception was magical. String lights floated above the garden, casting soft glows on happy faces. Guests danced, ate, and laughed like family. There was no divide between rich and poor, between caterer and client. Everyone was just family. Zainab and Timmy danced for the first time as husband and wife, spinning gently to the rhythm of love. Songs played by a live band. She rested her head on his chest. He held her like she might disappear. Then, the band switched to high life, and the mood changed instantly. "Let's dance, Papa," Zainab shouted. Chief Duro stepped into the center of the floor, surprising everyone with his moves. People clapped, laughed, and joined in. Even Musa, in his sharp blue suit, showed off steps no one expected. At one point, the DJ announced, "This next song is for the couple and their father, who started this love story in disguise." Everyone turned to Chief Duro. He walked to the center slowly, holding hands with Zainab and Timmy. Then, under the blinking lights, they danced. Three people. 3 hearts. One story. People around them watched in awe, not because of the beauty of the setting, or the wealth of the groom, or the elegance of the bride, but because they saw a story that reminded them that real love doesn't come with conditions. That it comes with kindness, with time, with intention. And as they danced, the world disappeared around them. There was no pain, no past, no doubt. Just the music and the promise of forever. The wedding was over, but the love was just beginning. Timmy and Zainab moved into a quiet home on the outskirts of the city, a lovely, sun-kissed bungalow with a small garden, where mango trees swayed in the breeze, just like the one where it all began. They didn't rush into a honeymoon. Instead, they chose to settle into each other slowly. Zainab continued her cooking business part-time, even though she no longer needed the income. She said, "It reminds me of who I am." Timmy supported her fully, even building her a small outdoor kitchen beside the garden. One evening, as they watered their plants side by side, Zainab looked at Timmy and said, "Do you ever wonder how different life would have been if your father didn't sit under that mango tree?" Timmy chuckled. "Sometimes. But I believe the right love always finds its way." Later that week, they invited Chief Duro and Musa over for dinner. It wasn't a fancy gathering, just a gussi, umla, and grilled fish. But the laughter at the table, the clinking of glasses, and the quiet glances of joy made it feel like the richest celebration of all. Chief Duro raised a glass. "To my son and my daughter. You've shown the world that wealth means nothing without warmth. That love is not found in speed, but in sincerity." Musa added, "And to Papa, who became a beggar just to find love." Everyone burst into laughter as the night drew to a close, and Zainab rested her head on Timmy's shoulder. She whispered, "I've never felt more at home." Timmy kissed her forehead. "You are my home." Months passed. Zainab and Timmy continued to grow together, learning each other's moods, routines, laughter, and quiet. Their love didn't stay in grand gestures. It lived in the small things, in the way Timmy always made her tea just the way she liked it, in the way Zainab always ironed his clothes before he asked, in the way they looked at each other like every day was the beginning. One afternoon, they returned to the market street where it all began. The mango tree was still there, the very spot where Chief Duro had once sat in old clothes, watching strangers pass him by. Zainab knelt and touched the tree trunk. "I didn't even know your father was watching." Timmy smiled. "You weren't trying to impress anyone. That's why he saw you." Suddenly, a young girl passed by, carrying a lunch pack, looking tired and hopeful. Zainab rushed to her. "Hey," she called out. "Are you okay?" The girl nodded. "Just trying to sell all my food today." Zainab opened her purse and paid for everything she had. "Go home. Rest. You're doing well," she said gently. As the girl left with wide eyes, Timmy turned to his wife. "Still feeding people?" "Always," Zainab smiled. "Kindness never runs out." They stood under the mango tree for a while longer, hand in hand, not speaking, just remembering, just living. And as the leaves rustled above them, the world seemed to whisper, "This is love. The kind that starts small and never ends."